I tried the most realistic drift car pack in Assetto Corsa versus the worst and most hated drift car pack. Let's see how these mods compare to each other on the map Sequoia Park. Boys, we are in Assetto Corsa and we are using the DWG 3.0 drift car pack with the S13. This thing looks absolutely mint, and one thing I will say already about this pack is you have to really drive these cars hard to get anything out of them. That is one thing that I do love about the DWG pack. We will be using one car from the DWG pack, which is this S13, and we will be comparing it to one of the cars from the worst rated car pack, and a car pack that is actually kind of told to stay clear from when you are drifting in Assetto Corsa by the community themselves. It is a very old car pack and it is just a very slippery car pack. Maybe some of you have probably already worked out what car pack it is, but I will leave that until we get over to the second car pack. But for now, we're going to continue drifting this DWG S13. For anybody wondering why I'm calling it the DWG S13, this thing is actually the DWG Nissan 240 SX S13.5. We do actually have a DWG Nissan Silvia PS13. However, I am using the 240 SX 13.5, so maybe it's not considered a Nissan Silvia PS13. So I'm not 100% sure what the difference is. I'm going to have to leave that to you guys to leave me a comment. What is the difference between a 240 SX S13.5 and a PS13? I can tell the shape of the car themselves are different, but why are they very similar? This DWG pack actually has a bunch of different variations for these cars too. So you've got different body kits on them as well. So there are actually like 3 different variations of the 240 SX. So there might even be a bit more for the 240 SX, but we also have like a different variation for the S15, the S14. I believe there's one variation of the Supra, and this definitely is a pack with a wide variation of cars, and even some other cars that are in the pack itself just have a bunch of different body kits which look super sick. Even the headlights on this car are super sick. They're not your conventional headlights. They do have some sort of satanic logo on the back lights there, which I find a pretty cool little touch that gives something very different compared to a lot of the cars in Assetto Corsa. They're very much standard. I do love the customized car looks, especially in AC. They have some really great kind of mods when people put the time in and create something different. I much prefer it than rather seeing the same kind of cars or the same kits, because you do see them a lot in AC. There are always a bunch of the same cars and same kits going around, so it's nice to see something different. This pack is definitely a very realistic pack. Now, one thing that about this pack is you kind of need to stay around that 3rd gear mark. 4th gear doesn't really work. 2nd gear is a bit too much. You're kind of bouncing off the rev limiter. However, in this 3rd gear, you kind of have to keep your speed up. Otherwise, if it drops too low, you don't quite have enough power to bring it back sometimes, and it can get a little bit messy. So it's definitely a car pack you really need to drive hard in order to get the most of it. The cars itself feel fairly slidey. They are a bit grippy, and you do need to put some real power down and really try and hold those angles. Maybe don't go too deep with the angle because it will slow you down a bit too much, and it's very hard to come back from those steep angles in this car. That's one thing I will tell you. So keeping a more maybe 45 kind of degree angle as you're going around these corners, you can definitely keep some really nice speed and power, and you can go a long way in distance, which is super cool. However, when you're going for those sharp corners, things can get a bit sticky. I really do like the first person in this car as well. The seating position, I know it's like one that I can set up myself. However, I've just jumped straight into first person, and this is how the camera was set up, and it feels really nice to drive like this, and it's something I would definitely recommend trying to find your perfect seating position for first person, because it really makes a difference. I've just been going off the track in that past section, which is something I really need to tidy up. I need to take it a bit wider on some of these. Now, one thing that I do notice on this, when I'm driving hard, I generally come closer to the track, so I need to keep that angle probably a bit shorter so I can get further out and then bring it back in on some of these corners. Now, this section here is one that is a fair struggle. We are now in the Tando Buddies car pack. Now, for anybody who worked out what second car pack this was, it is indeed Tando Buddies. One of the most hated car packs for the reason that it just is super easy to drift. Nobody really likes it because drifting is so unrealistic in it. The cars themselves are very, very slippery from the get-go, and they only have about 200 horsepower on some of them, so they're very slow as well and just super easy to drift, so people generally tell you to avoid them. When I was asking around what car packs should I drift in, people would always tell me to kind of avoid Tando Buddies at first when you're playing, because they're super easy to drift and they don't really give you that full sense of drifting. However, what I did find out is Tando Buddies is actually quite an old car pack. Now, this is probably one of the original car packs in the game and was actually created by a bunch of drifters, so at its time it was probably one of the best drifting car packs out there. But as the times have gone on in Assetto Corsa and things have changed. There have become some super realistic packs now that this pack has kind of fallen off a bit, and the ultra slidiness of it is one that basically makes people steer clear of it because it's a little too easy to drift. You don't really see Tando Buddy packs on any servers either nowadays. You don't really see any DWG packs on any car servers anymore either. I don't think people really use them. A lot of servers generally stick to the WDTS packs as they're super reliable and fairly good, and they actually feel pretty realistic. However, the DWG one for me is definitely one of the more realistic packs. There are a lot of packs out there that are super realistic as well that I still need to try, but this is one of those that was suggested to me and the one that I've really enjoyed, the DWG pack that is. Now, Tando Buddies, it's just super easy to drift and it can be a bit fun. The actual cars themselves look really good in Tando Buddies as well. For how old the car pack is, the Tando Buddy cars look really cool in this lighting and everything. It looks really good, and I actually really like the little lip. Oh, we got a little bump there, but this thing slides like crazy. Now, this car doesn't have much power, so it does require a whole lot of feathering of the throttle for me to get around things and then kind of full sending it, but I can't make too big of an angle either. I kind of need to stick to those smaller angles to be able to drag this car around some corners. Otherwise, I won't actually make it round them because it will come inside like this a bit too quick, and then we end up going slightly off the track. But it is one thing that I know slower cars teach you, is you kind of need to play with that throttle and really use angle. The lower angles on this car are definitely what keep it going round, but you can really whip it like this, and you can even do 360s fairly easy with low speed because it just slides super easy. Now, in the DWG car pack, I probably wouldn't have been able to pull that off. It would have been a bit harder to do, especially going at low speeds, because the DWG car pack doesn't slide about as much at low speeds either. I have no hate towards Tando Buddies. I just saw it kind of gets a bad rep in the community, but I decided to give it a try, and honestly, it does seem super easy to drift, and it doesn't really take much skill to throw this thing about. It's relatively simple, whereas the DWG car pack does take a lot more. There are a whole bunch of car packs out there that are very easy to slide, but Tando Buddies seem to get the worst rep, and I kind of understand why, but at the same time, it's a car pack. People should really just enjoy it. I understand it's probably not the most realistic, but at the same time, you can have some fun in this car as well, and I've taken that line super short there. There are a bunch of cars that use the arch physics, which apparently are meant to be the most realistic, and definitely ones that I will be trying out. But for this, I decided to try out one of the more popular realistic car packs, which I've been recommended quite a few times, which was DWG, and decided to put it against its lower rated Tando Buddies car pack that people tell me to avoid. Now, this car pack, Tando Buddies, and I believe Slide Boys was another car pack, which was relatively easy to kind of throw about, which was, you know, something that I used when I first started playing the game, and as I kind of got on, it still helped me learn to drift, but it definitely makes you think that cars are easier to slide than they actually are. Personally, I would probably just stick with something like the WDTS pack. They're very easy to drift about, but they are a lot more realistic than Tando Buddies, and they're not too aggressive as DWGs. You really need to drive that hard. Overall, I've really enjoyed drifting around in both of these car packs, and the DWG pack is definitely one of my favorites. Tando Buddies is just super simple and super easy. You can really drift this thing however you want, and you're not really gonna have any problems with it.